Well, greetings, Cap fans, and welcome to episode 198 of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. I'm Rick Verbanis. I'm your host, and I've got a great co-host. His name is Bob Lucius. Oh, Bob, appelle-moi, mon chéri. Appelle-moi.
Um, Appel his name, right?
No, no,
No,
no. You want the translation?
no.
It is, I'll give you a hint. It's a lyric to a song.
Uh-huh.
Came out in 1980.
Oh,
And it debuted on American Gigolo soundtrack. You know, the movie starring Richard Gere.
sure, yeah.
You want more?
Is it Blondie?
It is Blondie.
Uh-huh.
What's the name of the song?
Oh, oh
It
gosh,
was
God.
number one in the United
Oh,
States and number one in the UK. Big
ah,
hit.
I can't get it. I can't get it.
Appelle-moi, mon chéri, appelle-moi.
I don't know.
Call me.
Yeah, that's it.
Da, da. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So that's what
yeah.
appelle-moi, mon chéri means. Call me, my darling. Call
I
me.
see. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Bob, why am I
Yeah,
greeting
yeah.
you with a French lyric of "Call Me, My Darling"?
Well, I know that answer because tonight we're going to be reading Captain America in the first 13, which is a story that takes place in World War II and involves the French Resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So.
That almost sounds like you said the piece de resistance. You know, like kind of sound the same.
It
Yes,
did sound good,
and
yeah.
correct. And those lyrics I thought were appropriate because of
Mm,
the end of the story.
hmm.
And it's sung by a blondie,
Blondie.
which
Yeah.
Peggy Carter is a blondie.
Yeah.
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 So anyway, I thought that was
Good.
appropriate.
Yeah. Good choice.
Bob, how you doing? How I know you were out last week. I was on a staycation last week,
Yeah.
so we didn't record. But you, the listeners, wouldn't know that because we like to prepare ahead. So you guys never miss an episode, even though we may be on vacation. So, Bob,
Or on secret missions.
that's true.
Yeah. Undercover.
I can't tell you about.
Right. Yeah. We don't want to talk
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
All right. But
So.
go ahead, Bob. Tell us about last week.
Yeah.
You have a nice trip?
I did. Thank you, Rick. My family and I, we flew up to Vermont for a few days. Spent some time there. Visited the old university where I went for my undergrad. 30. Last time I was there was 34 years ago.
Yeah.
I
And they let
visited.
you back.
They did, yeah, yeah. Considering after, I visited the year after I graduated, and they ran me off campus. But,
Right.
but I
Oh,
think,
statute of limitations,
yeah, and
restraining
also I was
order.
wearing a fake mustache this week.
Okay.
So it was good. Things have changed a lot, as you might imagine, but it was just very nice. Weather was perfect in Vermont. I don't know if you've ever been to Montpelier or that
Mhm.
area in central Vermont, but
You know, my kids are in Vermont as we speak.
are they really?
Yeah, they're on vacation. They do an annual vacation with their mom's side of the family. They do a timeshare and they go up and they spend the week there. So it's just weird that they're in
Yeah.
Vermont this week and you were in Vermont last week. And other than that, no one's ever in Vermont.
Wow. I might have. Did I pass them perhaps at the Ben
Could
and
be.
Jerry's factory?
They got there on s- Friday night.
Wow.
When did you
I
leave?
I left Thursday. I left
Uh,
Vermont on Thursday to head down for a Fourth of July party barbecue with my siblings and their kids. Did the whole Boston Freedom Trail thing
mhm.
with my son and wife, and then we headed back this weekend. So it was a
That's
good trip.
cool.
Yeah, good to get away and see some other parts of the world, other parts of the country, get
And
some perspective
reminiscing.
and reminiscing. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, the weather was great. So last year at this time, they had about 5 feet of flooding in Montpelier. They actually had, which is unusual. They have a river. The Winooski River runs through Montpelier, the capital of Vermont. It's only about 5 square blocks, and it rose 5 feet in the middle of the city. To the point where they actually had like chalk marks on the walls where
Wow.
it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe how much flooding, but they bounced back pretty well. So that was neat to see.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's scary.
So how was your staycation?
It was good. Visited my mom in Delaware one day. I visited Meg's side of the family in Connecticut for July 4th, and the rest was taking care of stuff around the house
Mm-hmm.
and spend a little time in the pool and working on a special project
Oh, that's right.
of our Captain America community theater. And so I've been working with the director, Michael Udlick, and Michael's been great. He has put so much time and effort and talent into this. We've bounced ideas back and forth because he's the director, Bob. I'm the producer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, what does producer do?" And he told me, I was like, "All right, I could do that."
Yeah.
And um, so so we bounced around ideas, and we got so many people sent in audition,
Mm-hmm.
with recordings of their voices doing different characters, and it is so fun. It's like we have a family, a
Yeah.
mom, a dad, and a daughter who actually all sent something in, and they're all great, so they're all going to be in it.
Yeah.
And we have some members of the Facebook group and patrons of the podcast. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun,
I
Bob.
hear there's going to be some verbani. Is
Yes,
that the plural? Is that the plural?
you could say that, sure. Usually we go Verbonuses,
Urbanuses. Yeah.
this is.
Oh, this is
But anyway, yeah, my son
awesome.
who graduated college over a year ago with a double degree of theater and arts administration, and who has been touring as a lead in the musical. He's back. He
Mm-hmm.
finally,
Mm-hmm.
finished the tour, and he has a couple of these Saturdays available. So I asked him if he'd be interested. He's like, "Yeah, let's do it." So
That's awesome.
he is going to be doing a major character. I'm going to be doing a major character, and you may have heard I do Captain America.
I've heard that. I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're gonna and he's gonna be Clint Barton.
All
So he's gonna be
right.
Hawkeye slash Goliath slash Clint Barton, and we're covering Captain America 400 and 401. So it's the Operation Galactic Storm story and then the fallout afterwards. And there's going to be a couple of scenes where our Clint and Steve are together. So I'm going to be acting with my son
Yeah.
for the first time ever in the
That
same scene.
that's awesome. He may
I
take you
know.
out on tour next.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
If this works out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're looking forward to that.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
that's gonna be a lot of fun.
indeed.
Yeah.
Uh, Bob, I had a question for you.
Mm.
I can't remember. Are you a vegetarian or a vegan?
We are we're vegetarian. We Casey and I we're predominantly vegan, but with a young child.
Hmm.
He's not really a young child. He's 14. Kids can be picky.
Yeah.
So sometimes we do end up giving them eggs or real cheese or something like that.
Hmm.
That's about the extent of it. So yeah, but we don't eat fish, we don't eat meat or anything like that. So we
All
try
right.
to
So
reduce that as much as possible. And I don't
when
wear leather or anything like that.
okay, when you and Casey
Uh-huh.
have uh, a spousal tiff,
Yeah.
like an argument on that,
Uh-huh. Oh,
since you're both
yeah.
vegetarians, can it still be considered a beef?
Yeah, but we have to call it a faux beef.
All right. Should we get to today's episode, Bob?
Indeed. Let's dive in.
All right. Well, Bob, you had suggested this one, and it is a story I had never read before. It came out in 2011, and it is a one-shot special, and it's called Captain America and the First 13. And that just sounds weird, right?
It
Like,
does.
what does that mean?
Yeah.
And for Cap fans, they probably know this that Sharon Carter is Agent 13
Hmm.
with Shield, and prior to that, her aunt Peggy Carter was also Agent 13.
Yes.
And so this is a story about the first 13 or Peggy Carter.
Yes.
And it's actually a really cool story because it's told from Peggy's point of view.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a fun story, I think. It's got a little bit of it's bittersweet, but it's got a lot of fun elements in it as well. This is one of those those riches I think that came out in 2011, just about the time the first Avenger came out, and fans benefited a lot from all the little side stories and one shots that they pushed out for that.
Yeah, back when I had my comic book store, Bob, the MCU started. It
Mm-hmm.
was not like I sold it in 2009, so it was prior to this.
Yeah.
But I had it during when Iron Man 1 and 2 came out and Hulk came out.
Yeah.
And I think Thor. And so it was good that Marvel did publish additional stories of those characters during that time because inevitably somebody watched the movie and didn't really read comics, or they haven't read comics for a long time, and they would come into the store and say, hey, I'm interested in Iron Man, what do you have? Well, this is the new stuff that's here, like, of course I've got a million over things over here that
Yeah.
came out a long time ago, but here
Yeah.
are some new things on the shelf. And,
Right.
like a one shot was always like a great entryway into that. So I was always, as a comic retailer, I was always grateful that Marvel did that.
Yeah. I mean, and for some characters, it was a bit problematic, right? I mean, Peggy Carter being one of those, where if without these sorts of stories, if fans had come in and said, "Oh, I want to read something that has Peggy Carter in it," they would have been like dumbfounded. That had like absolutely nothing to do with what they had seen in the movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
No connection whatsoever.
No, none whatsoever. And
Yeah.
so it's funny. I got ridiculed for this back when we had Peggy Carter in one of the stories, and I gave her a British accent when I was going through it, panel by panel, and
Uh-huh.
someone was like, "She's not British,"
Right. Sure. Yeah.
and I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're right. I totally forgot. I was going by the MCU version."
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because I think at the time the What If series was out, and it was like Captain Carter was,
Captain Carter.
and so I,
Mm-hmm.
I had it on the brain, and I totally goofed, and I got called out, and rightfully so. And so no, she does not have a British accent because
Yes.
she's from America. She's
Yeah.
American. In fact, I even sometimes thought, well, wait a minute, I know she was in the French Resistance. Was she
Yeah.
French? No, no, she's not French.
Yeah.
She's not British.
Yeah.
She's American.
Well, that's a hard, and that's one of those things where it's hard to bridge because they brought so much from the MCU into the 616, that there's like a lot of gray area in there. It's like, yeah, she's Virginia, elite Virginia family, right? And yet, where did Captain Carter come from then? Like, how is she like British in
Yeah.
Captain Carter?
Well, that's the
Right?
other thing too. So we're going through this community theater that we're going to be doing, which is, by the way, hopefully it's going to be out in the next few weeks. We're shooting for episode 200 because we want to make 200 a special episode. But one of the things was, uh, people were sending in for the Black Knight, Dane Whitman,
Mm-hmm.
with a British accent.
Yeah.
He's not British.
Yeah.
He was born in Massachusetts.
Right.
If
Yeah.
anything, he's got a Boston accent.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and so and I was like, I did a lot of due diligence on this. I'm like looking it up and everything. And it's sort of anytime you Google something about a Marvel character, what comes up at the top?
Right.
MCU,
MCU.
right?
Yeah.
So Dane Whitman was introduced, I think, at the end of the what was
Celestial. What?
yeah, the
Yeah. The
Eternals.
Eternals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beat you.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and Kit Harrington, I think, is the actor,
Hmm.
and he has a British accent. I
Yeah.
think, if I remember correctly, because I know he does in other things he does. But anyway, so that keeps showing up. I was like, no, it's not it. It's not it.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching these videos about the history of Dane Whitman and everything. And I was looking to see if Marvel itself had like ever had the Black Knight in the like an Avengers cartoon,
Hmm.
and I couldn't find it. because I was like, that would have been before the MCU, like a
Yeah.
Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes or something like that. And I couldn't find something, but so we're
Hmm.
going with an American accent
All right.
for
Well,
Dane Whitman. But
yeah.
yeah, that stuff constantly gets kind of
Yeah.
confused and
It gets commingled. So,
indeed. All right. So today's episode, just kind of to let you know, this came out in 2011. It had a release date of March 9th and then a cover date of May 2011. So this was celebrating the year celebrating 70 years of Captain America. So uh, that was hard to believe that that was like 13 years ago already.
right. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's like Bobby's lifetime.
That's true.
And it still feels like a brand new comic to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
The creators on this is a who's who of people I've never heard of before. Uh, no offense to these creators because
yeah.
they're actually pretty good.
Yeah.
The writer is Kathryn Immonen, and if that name Immonen sounds familiar, yes, she is the wife of Stuart Immonen, and Stuart is a pretty famous artist in the comic industry, and Kathryn, she actually has been around writing for a while. I went and looked her up. She broke into the business in 2007, and I think last time I seen something from her was just a few years ago. So she had a nice long run there. She started off with doing stories about Patsy Walker, and then she was doing Runaways. She had some nice stints on those, and then she did a lot of fill-ins here and there. But she did Journey into Mystery for a long time. She actually did a Agent Carter Shield 50th anniversary #1 special too. If you like this story and you want to see her do more of Agent Carter, check that out. That's a one shot that came out in 2015. And then our penciler and inker is Ramon K. Perez. Again, not a name I'm familiar with, but he broke into the scene 2003, and uh, I've actually, yeah, up until a few years ago. So he's been in the industry for a long time. He was doing a bunch of like three issues here and there. But for Marvel, he did um, the miniseries NYX, No Way Home. And then he did John Carter, The God of Mars. He did Wolverine and the X-Men. He did Amazing Spider-Man, All New Hawkeye, Nova, Marvel 2-in-1. So he's been around as well. Again, I'm just not familiar with his name. Also in this issue is colorist John Raunch, letterer Jared Fletcher, editor Rachel Pinellas, and then also as editor is Tom Brevoort. All right, the cover is by Greg Tuccinini. I'm not familiar with him, but it's a pretty cool cover if you want to take the listeners through it, Bob.
Indeed. So, I've been looking at this cover, Rick, and I think it appears to be like a watercolor cover. I don't know if you agree or not, but just the way it's sort of constructed, it does strike me as a painted cover, but it's a great cover nonetheless. I really love it because dead set in the middle, we've got Peggy Carter in her resistance uniform. So she's got the beret on,
Mm-hmm.
she's got the dark clothing, she's got the pouches with the grenade hanging off her web belt, and she's armed with a grease gun, so a high caliber semi-automatic automatic weapon, two-hand firing with a very large magazine, and so she's looking like she's all out for business. And we've got her, as you mentioned earlier, blonde hair. So, I mean, I think we're used to seeing, Peggy with brown hair, but as you know, in the Tales of Suspense stories that we're familiar with, Steve remembers her as a blonde and is confused by her appearance uh, by Sharon Carter because they look almost identical. And so in this, we see a Peggy Carter that looks very much like Sharon, and she's
Hmm.
got a very serious expression on her face. And
Well,
and
Bob,
yeah,
doesn't technically Sharon look like Becky?
that's a good point. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, chronologically speaking, indeed, you're right. So behind her, we've got Cap, and he is in a fighting spirit as well. He is throwing his shield with his appears to be his right hand because his left is extended behind him, and it looked like he just clocked a Nazi in the jaw as he's moving forward, chucking his
Hmm.
shield. So, and in the background, we've got some aircraft flying high above. We've got a church steeple, and we've got some explosions going on, all with that red, white, and blue motif that symbolizes the shield sort of around them in the background. So it's a great cover, I think. And it's if you saw this on the shelf, you'd be like, "What on earth is going on? What is this First 13? Who is this woman? And is this a World War II story?"
Hmm. And you would be right. It's interesting because this came out what 3 months, 4 months before the first Avenger movie came out.
Right.
So it was a good for it was a good way to capitalize on the buzz too, because people knew that Peggy Carter was going to be in there. All right. Opening page is a classified document with some photos laid around. Nice way to kind of explain the situation, and because it looks like it's some sort of report, that's military coming to fill in some of the leaders here, and it says classified, and it has profile number, and then it has a long number after that. I saw something on Facebook today, and I think Doug Hogan, if you are listening, this is on your Facebook post, and it had said lazy uh, lazy fact, and then underneath it a number, and had like 9 digits, right? And then underneath that it
Yeah.
said, um, lazy people don't you didn't lazy people didn't read that number. And it was like busted, totally busted.
Like that.
So I'm looking at this classified document which has 8 digits. I didn't read it. Did you read it? I didn't
No,
read it.
it's nonsensical. Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And
I'm
the
like,
name.
oh no, this is the wrong one. I wanted 163130009.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you have to pull the wrong one here.
Uh, it's funny how your mind thinks. You changed 10 to 9. I
Yeah.
would have changed it to 11 because I'm lazier. And I would have just read it all the way to the last digit and just changed the last digit. You changed the last 2 digits. Kudos to you, Bob.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I decided I was going to do the math. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, Real name, Margaret Carter, aka Agent 13. Bob, do you want to read this classified document to our listeners?
Well, I feel a little uncomfortable doing that because, I'm not supposed to share classified information. That's sort of been drilled into me, but why not? Yeah, seems the thing to do. So, Margaret Peggy Carter was born to a wealthy American family during simpler times. When war broke out in Europe, she was not content to idly stand by and watch as the Nazis invaded the continent. Peggy left her comfortable American life to join the French Resistance and soon became one of their bravest and best trained members. It was while fighting for their country overseas that she first encountered Captain America. Though their wartime strategies and combat tactics often differed, they were drawn together by a common purpose of service and justice. This bond between the two heroes ultimately blossomed into romance that struggled to endure the war. Following her service, Peggy became ensconced in the international security agency SHIELD and furthered her adventures championing for peace and inspiring a new generation of heroes. Cherchez la femme.
Oh, Bob, that was so well done. And what does that mean?
That means look for the woman.
Yes, it does.
Mm.
Did you know that? Or did you look it up?
I did. I took French for 2 years in college, Rick. That's why I changed my major.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
Then maybe you should do all the French accents in this
Oh,
issue. Apparently, I looked it up and it says it's a cliche in detective fiction.
it is. Yeah. Originally attributed to Alexander Dumas, right?
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I trust you on that.
Yeah. It's a cliche, right? Because look for the woman, because it's usually if there's a woman, a lover, a concubine, a mistress,
That's who did it.
an angry wife, that's who did it. Yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
follow the money.
Follow the money, look for the woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna get all kinds of hate emails from women now.
I don't subscribe to that, of course.
Yeah. All right. So, uh, getting to the opening page, and it is it's in France. It's 1943, and it is downtown. It's late at night, and it must have rained recently. There's puddles on the ground, and it's France. It doesn't say the city, but it is definitely a city. And we see late at night, walking in the middle of the street, not on the sidewalks, is it looks like an old lady, little hefty. She's got a long jacket on and a hood, and she's walking with a cane, but she's whistling, and it looks like now all of a sudden she's singing. Though our country will never make war, we've a reason that's worth fighting for. Not for battle our banners unfurls, but for girls, 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 girls. And she's knocking on a door while she's singing girls. And it says Secret Agent Peggy Carter in
Je la femme.
We. And someone answers the door, and it's a man, and he has on a uniform. I wish you wouldn't sing that awful song. What's the matter, Henry? You don't like girls? It's Peggy Carter.
Oh
And
my gosh.
she takes off her hood and she has a big smile on her face. I don't like the Nazi traitor who sings it. Who sang that song, Bob?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Rick. A gentleman by the name of Maurice Chevalier.
You don't say.
Yeah, I do say. Yeah.
And
Are you familiar with Maurice?
I am not. You want to tell me a little bit about him?
Well, Maurice Chevalier actually sang this song in the 1934 film version of The Merry Widow, which was an operetta that was originally written in German, sung in German, and it was translated into English, sung by Maurice Chevalier, which was he was a French singer, but he caught some heat during World War II, even though he was a legitimate World War I hero who was imprisoned by the Germans for 2 years. In World War II, he had the misfortune of being stuck with his Jewish wife, I might add, in France when the Nazis invaded and the Vichy government took over. That was the collaborationist government. And so over time, they got him to do some things that sort of roped him in and got him accused of being a collaborationist. It didn't help that he was also a communist sympathizer. And so after the war, they wanted to try him as a collaborator. He dodged that one. The jury found him innocent, but he had a very hard time getting any traction visiting the United States or England because of his reputation, either justifiably or not.
I did not know that. That's very interesting. Uh, did you know that prior to this issue, or did you look it up?
Of course, I looked it up.
All right, you never
Yeah, no, I had
know.
no idea. No idea why
Oh,
Henri was so upset with the singer of the song.
did you just go all on Henri on me?
I did. I did. Yeah.
Now I have to refer to him as Henri. All right. What about is it Serge?
Serge?
Is it Serge?
I
I
think
thought it
it's
was Serge.
Serge.
All right. All right.
Serge,
I'm
yeah.
gonna listen. You're the expert here.
Yeah.
All right. And then all right. So that's the other guy. All right. So Peggy, who is smiling and she loves giving Henri a I would Peggy call him Henry or Henri?
Oh, I think she'd call him Henri. I think,
Okay.
when in
That's
France,
fair.
she, I think she speaks French, right? She,
Okay.
so.
So she changes the song. When the Führer says we is the master race, we heil right in the Führer's face. Is that better? Is everything taken care of? Were you able to contact? And she's taking off her cloak and her jacket, and she's just looks like she's just happy to be free of all this. I'm afraid there wasn't time to do everything, but don't worry, he'll be ready. And she's just like walking down the stairs, walking down a hall, and she's just taking off her clothes and just dropping it here and there as she's just walking, leaving shoes and everything. I like it, but the dad of me is like, no, no, don't do that.
Yeah, I get the feeling, Rick, as somebody who's been around, who has been around women Marines. At a certain point, you know, people just stop caring anymore. Uh,
Caring about what?
Clothes, there that
No, I'm not
whole,
talking about nudity. I'm
yeah.
talking about the fact that she left a trail of clothes
Oh, down.
and
Oh,
the dad in me is like, you need to pick those up and put them where they belong,
hold those. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh so anyway, so she goes into a room, a dark room, and she says, but don't worry, he'll be ready. He's always ready. And then we cut to Steve Rogers putting on his Captain America uniform. He's like putting on his Buccaneer boots, sitting on a bed, and he's kind of struggling putting on his boots. That's interesting.
I love that.
Hadn't seen that before.
Yeah. I love, I mean, those leather boots they're tight, right? You got to like
Yeah.
pull them on to get them on and off. And you see, he struggled a little bit to get that boot on.
I have a feeling he was born that way, which is kind of funny that she's saying that as he's struggling to put on his boots.
Right.
And even though I've never seen the face behind the mask, with or without the guise of Captain America, in my heart, I know there could be no disguising his bravery, his courage, his intelligence. And one of these days, we will meet without the mask, quite by accident, probably. And we will know each other face to face. And then there will be no disguising ourselves or our feelings. And then Cap, he's finished, puts his mask on, grabs his shield, and jumps out of the window. And he's looks like he's probably like at least 2 or 3 stories high. And he goes into an alleyway and jumps down to where a motorcycle is waiting for him. Captain America is an invaluable member of the resistance, but we could and would go on without him. But I'm not sure I could or would. And then Cap's driving away on the motorcycle. You know how you can tell he's driving away, Bob?
Yeah, I knew you were going to go there. Is it the cloud of smoke or the vroom coming out the back?
It was both. And he's going down a paved cobblestone kind of paved street. And then we cut back to what she's doing, and she's changing her clothes, and we see her leg up close, very reminiscent of the movie with Dustin Hoffman,
Mrs.
The
Doubtfire.
Graduate.
No, that's Robin Williams.
Yeah,
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Graduate.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
the
yeah.
Graduate, where it's just you see the leg bent
Yes,
and you see
right.
underneath
Yeah,
Dustin Hoffman's character looking at the woman.
yeah,
That's the perspective that we have right here. But
right.
instead of Dustin Hoffman's character, we're seeing her in the mirror looking back at herself.
Yeah.
And she's putting a weapon on her garter belt. Agent 13, are you dressed yet? And she's checking her pistol. Didn't your mother teach you to knock, Henri? My mother didn't teach me a lot of things. It's true. Just ask his girlfriend. The meeting is still going ahead? It is, sir, as we speak, in fact. And how do you know Captain America will not betray us? Nobody's going to betray anyone, Henri. Competing interests don't preclude a common goal. You know that. And he helps her on with her jacket. And she has her beret on. You had better be right. Hopefully, we're not going to have a chance to find out. I'm sure the exchange will go smoothly. And we cut to the exchange, and it looks like a church that has been bombed because it is totally disheveled and it's late at night and it's dark and shadows. And you see Captain America standing there with a German soldier. Or is he? And by the way, this is a younger Cap, right? So it is 1943. He's still relatively new to being Captain America. And so we're treated to a younger version.
Yeah.
It sure doesn't look like much. Are you sure it's complete? It's a thermal ray, not a panzer wagon. The Japanese tend to be more discreet in their design. Crafty. Typical. Not crafty enough, as it is now in our possession, giving us the ability to target any heat source on the ground, any engine in the night sky. Well, I prefer weapons to look like weapons. That way you know who to shoot first. And this German soldier is holding, looks like a small uh, attache case, and you open it up and there's an electronic device inside it, and you've got headphones and Geiger counter type of thing, and so he's got it open and he's showing it to Cap. I also have the plans. I'll take your word for it, Fritz. And Fritz, by the way, is in quotes. So Fritz, Bob, that's a nickname
For Germans. So this guy is dressed in it looks like a German SS uniform. We see the skull and bones on his headgear. So he's definitely not one of the good guys, at least apparently. But I don't know. Cap seems to trust him.
Yeah, and Fritz is in quotes.
Yeah.
So that tells you that he's not really German, right?
Right.
Oh, did I give away?
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it, Fritz. Do I look like I have X-ray vision? So, the delivery is complete. I hope you have a secure way out of here. I need to get back to my people. It's all take. And Cap turns his head. What is it? Were you expecting company, Mark? I told you not to call me that. Get down! And there's a big explosion.
Kaboom!
And Mark, he says, Nam de Dieu. What does that mean, Bob?
I think in the name of God.
Yeah. So his French comes out in the moment of panic. Not a really good undercover spy.
I want to work on that.
Yeah. And then coming through the downed wall that just blew up is a small regiment of
Contingent.
huh?
A contingent. Yeah. A regiment would have about 500, 600 people.
Oh. All right. How do you break these down, Bob? I've always been curious about that, right? So
Yeah.
you have a regiment, you
So let's start at
have
the bottom. You would have a squad,
how
which
many people are in a squad?
about four,
Okay.
right? I'm sorry, a fire team, would be about four. Then you'd have a squad and might have, about 13 folks in it. So a
What
number
was
of
the
squad,
first thing?
a fire team.
Fire team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like the smallest maneuver unit, and then a squad would have several fire teams. Then you'd have a company, you have a platoon, which would have three squads in leadership, and then you'd have a company, which would have three platoons, and then a battalion, which would have several companies, and then above the battalion you would have a regiment.
My
So
God, is there going to be a quiz?
yeah,
I'm not going to remember all that.
I know. Yeah, who would, right? Um, but yeah, so this, we're looking at like what, six half dozen soldiers here. It's probably, a bit of a squad. The rest of them are probably outside, or coming around, flanking around on the backside of the church to prevent their escape.
Is that typical no matter the country? Is that
Yeah, well,
standard?
it's not standard, but it's substantially standard, and in fact, our organization is largely based on German developments, specifically like Prussia, but also German army doctrine in World War One
Hmm.
and later in World War Two. So our system really reflects theirs more than anything. And so most professional armies around the world have that sort of system where they go from small maneuver units to squads to platoons to companies to battalions to regiments and so on, divisions.
Interesting. It is interesting. And also 13, you said, is a
Mm,
is a squad.
yeah.
13 is not a lucky number.
Well, it's not. Yeah, yeah. So it's generally, so for a squad, you'd have a squad leader, and you might have one heavy weapons, and a radio man attached.
Hmm.
So
In
you,
addition to the 13, or that
no,
included?
no, that's part of it. So
Okay.
you'd have like the three fire teams, right? So
Uh-huh.
maybe you'd have
But that's 12.
that's 12. So like one of those guys, the squad leader would attach to one of those with his radio guy being one of those, because every team would have a radio person
Hmm.
assigned to somebody in charge of communications. And so, on and on and up. And so the further up you go, the bigger that headquarters element gets, to the point where you have like, multiple, radio guys. You might have a mortar section to support squads. And then a battalion would have a whole company of heavy weapons. But generally the organization is the same pretty much anywhere, because it's easily to manage, right? I mean, just like the Romans used to do it with their groups of 10 and the groups of 100, and that's how they organize their forces. So it's just easy to maneuver and move them around.
Hmm. I that stuff's interesting to me. How much I don't know. Uh, and it was like when you're talking about this about the radio guy. I'm trying to remember what was I used to be into GI Joe,
Yeah.
and there was a name for the guy who was in charge of communications, and he had a little headset on, a little
Mm.
little microphone in front of his face, and he had a backpack, and I he had a code name, and I can't remember what his code name was. Breaker. His name was Breaker.
Breaker. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
He
that's what
also
it
was on
is.
the CB. Breaker.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
All right, so these squad of German soldiers are coming in and they're firing their machine guns, Bob. And so at this point, Cap, wanting to make sure that Mark's cover isn't blown, goes and he knocks, like gives a big punch to his face and hits him right in the jaw, which makes a loud noise, crack. And he says uh, to Mark, he says, "You need to stay down." And as he's putting his shield up and holding back the ricochets off the shield, Bob. Here's a little game we play at home. I call it bowling for thalers. Who knows? Maybe you'll catch on. Oh, Bob, what's a thaler?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Rick. So a thaler is it's a heavy silver coin
It's
that
German.
began German. Yeah, well, it was the name originally is from the Holy Roman Empire. So even before Germany became a unified state, a lot of the countries within the Holy Roman Empire would mint these. So like Prussia and um, the rest of them escape me. But in any case, the equivalent at that time would have been like the U.S. silver dollar or the British crown, and so they were substantial heavy silver coins. And
Mm,
so rather than bowling for dollars, Cap is bowling for thalers.
yes. Here's the thing. Bowling for Dollars TV show didn't debut until the 60s.
Right. Yeah.
So I like how the writer was like, maybe it'll catch on. Maybe he will.
Yeah.
Look out, his shield. And then he throws his shield, hitting three different soldiers and then ricocheting back. And he catches it. You guys are about as organized as Bucky's footlocker, which is to say, not at all. And then he takes a gun out of one of the soldiers' hands as he knocks him out. And then he uses that gun to shoot a soldier. Glad I don't have to waste good American buckshot. And he's smiling. Bob,
Shock,
we never see
shock and
Captain
awe.
America use a gun and shooting
Yeah.
somebody.
Well, and here's the thing, though, Rick. We could argue whether that was a good shot or not. I mean, he's at relatively close range, and it looks like he shot. He. It's just a flesh wound.
Yeah, he shot him in the
Uh,
side. He
Shot him
got
in
the
the
love
side.
handle.
He basically took out the love handle. But you would think, at that range, Cap could have easily just shot him in the head or shot him in the heart. And so, was it accidental? Was it intentional? I don't know. Was it for aesthetic purposes? Who knows?
I don't like the look on his face, though. He looks too happy,
Yeah. Well, I have a
a
hard
little
time.
maniacal.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
And then he's standing there as this all these German soldiers are just laying at his feet on the ground. And then he looks over at Mark, the one he punched out, and Mark's laying there moaning in pain. And then we cut to the next page, and this is he's now moaning, but he's in laying in bed. And there is a doctor who is treating him in bed. So he's not in a hospital. He's in a safe house. This should help with your pain. I ask you, what do we need the Nazis for when we've got our friends to take such good care of us? I ask you. And he's an older gentleman, and he's got his doctor's bag, and he's just gave him a shot, and he leaves. Rest, will you, while we try to figure out what to do with you. And for God's sake and mine, Mark, try to stay quiet. Ugh. So he leaves the bedroom and he goes out into the hallway, and there's Peggy Carter in her French outfit. She's got the little jacket on with the belt, and she's got a beret and a skirt that goes below the knees. Well, how bad is it? You know how sometimes you undo the cage on the champagne and there's that little point of wire and she stabs you? Yes, but not lately. And then the other time, you argue with your wife and she push you out the window? Yes, but again, not lately. The bad news is Mark has a badly broken jaw and an orbital fracture. There is bleeding in the ear canal, and he lose 5 teeth on that side. The good news? Your friend missed the nose, so he still has his looks. And if he's ever going to speak again, he needs surgery, and I can't do it here. All right, leave it with me. Mademoiselle, I can hardly do otherwise. And he puts on his hat and he walks out. And Peggy's got her eyes looking down and she's wrestling with her hair and she's thinking. And then Cap shows up. So, what's the big idea? And then she kind of puts her hand on her forehead, like, ah, you're asking me what's the big idea? What? Am I speaking French all of a sudden? French, I understand. All I know is one minute I'm chewing the fat with your agent, and the next, I'm dodging bricks. And he moves in closely, Bob. And because she's leaning up against the wall, he comes in front of her and puts his hand on the wall. We'd gotten wind that Mark's location may have been compromised. I may have let it slip to a small group of go getters that he had been captured and was undergoing interrogation. If the Germans thought it was a rescue instead of a raid, then he could still be of use to us. And Cap moves in closer. The thermal ray came directly to him from the Japanese. They had no reasons to suspect he wasn't transmitting it to command when you intercepted him. And he moves in even closer, looks like for a kiss. But she pushes him away. I'm just sorry that you intercepted him so damn hard, Flyboy. He's no use to anyone now. You know me. I was just making it look good for the cameras. I would have appreciated some warning, though. There wasn't time. Besides, darling, I know you can take care of yourself. And then he pulls her in. That's right. I can. And it's no small part for you. And at this point, she finally smiles and kind of gives in and she puts her hands around him. Well, then, while you're feeling generous, there's something else you can do for me. Name it. You can get in there and apologize. And she points to where Mark's bedroom is. For what? For what? For making sure that he'll never be able to order off the menu ever again. Listen, sweetheart, I'm American. This is how I fight for America, even when I'm in France. Have you forgotten that I'm American too? Nope. It's one of the things I've always liked about you. Then I hope you also like that I always mean what I say. The Cap looking past her over her shoulder. Hey, soldier. Yes. Are you even listening to me? Of course I'm listening to you. I sure. And then he looks back to where he was looking over her shoulder and he waves and smiles. So she turns her head. What on earth is your. And who is it, Bob?
Well, it's another woman, Rick, a very tall, lean woman with dark hair.
Yes, and she's wearing all black.
An all black jumpsuit with a a an orange kerchief tied around her neck. So you know
Ooh
she's
la la.
fashionable. Yeah,
She's got a little cleavage showing too, Bob.
she does. She a little bit. Yeah, I hadn't noticed that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And she's holding a little pocketbook.
Yeah.
Can I help you? Anna, I'm so glad to see you. I hear you have a job for me. Always. You're not busy, are you? Of course not. I was just watering my garden with champagne and fashioning bullets out of foie gras when Serge rode up. What a coincidence. I did that yesterday. And they're both smiling. Our friend can't stay here, but he's in no condition to fly or even travel alone. I can do that for you. That's no problem, if you have a plane. We do, or we will. But first, an introduction, I think. And Cap's there, all smiles.
All smiles. Yeah.
Anna, I'd like you to meet So. And Anna reaches into her little pocketbook and she pulls out some lipstick and starts to apply it. This is Captain America, famed in song and story. And then she bends over and looking at the reflection on Cap's shield. Can you hold that a little higher, please? So is, as she's using it as a reflection for her putting on her lipstick. So is that the famous knockout lipstick me and the boys have heard so much about? It could be. And she smiles coyly at him. I can give you a demonstration if you'd like, mon capitaine. I, uh, really? And he looks at Peggy. What do you say? And she just rolls her eyes. Go ahead, but I'm telling you right now, you won't like it. So Anna comes in closer. She puts her right hand on the side of Cap's face. Do you want me to close my eyes? Do you usually close your eyes? I like it so far. And she gets very close with the lips. And then her eyes open and his eyes open because there's a noise, Bob.
Snip.
And what is it?
Oh, she had a switchblade in her left hand. So as her right hand was caressing his jawline, she now has her switchblade open and the blade pointing into his gut.
Ah, so that's how it works. Not always. Sometimes I use a gun. And now, if we are done playing, I'm assuming there's an actual plan. And then they get walking, and I think they're outside, and Peggy's going over the plan. We've heard there are a couple of German planes being held at a farm about 80 kilometers from here. It's all we need. We're cleaning a truck now. Cleaning? Please tell me you haven't liberated army issue, because I can't. No, no, no. Chicken farmer issue. It's been befouled. Sorry. Have you got enough fuel? We've got it. We've got enough everything, Anna. And what are you planning to protect our departure with? Eggs? We've got something better. I don't know. I think most of us could be bought off with a decent omelet right about now. Just be ready to go as soon as it's dark. Would the passenger be able to travel by then? He doesn't have a choice. And if I'm being honest, he's not our only priority. So while they're talking, there's a few things that are happening, right? The looks like Serge and Henri are getting together weapons. They're helping Mark out of the bed, taking pictures of the plans. And next thing you know, they're in the back of that truck, going down into the woods, and it's late at night. Navigation, escape, demolition, close combat, silent killing, cryptography. That's quite a list. You ladies sure you know what you're doing? We're as tough as any man, maybe more clever, certainly more thorough. You must admit, you don't fight the same way, though. Maybe not, but we die the same way. What's this one? Water activated poison? And she's like opening up, looks like a compact. No. Radio transmitter? No. Garrote holder? No. Well, yes, but primarily rouge. And she's powdering her nose. All right, Bob, did I ever tell you about the story about two blondes walking on the beach?
I don't think so, Rick.
Okay. So these two blondes are walking on the beach, and the first blonde steps on a compact. And so she picks it up. She looks at it. She opens it up, and she looks at it, and she goes, huh, this person looks really familiar. And the other one grabs it out of her hand. She goes, you're such an idiot. It's me.
That's pretty good.
Uh,
That's all right. A beach joke. Can't go wrong with those.
we are here. Be ready. And they park the car, turn off the lights, and run into the woods. And then we cut to a German soldier who's standing as a guard at I guess, some sort of road stop, right? And what's he doing, Bob?
He's playing the age-old soldier game on guard of a box of wooden matches, and he's just striking each match and throwing it on the ground.
He's bored.
He's bored. Yeah.
Yeah. Not a very good guard, though.
No, no, not at all.
No. So he's just striking the matches. And next thing you know, there is a wire going around his neck, and it looks like Agent 13 is basically strangling him, slicing his throat. And pulls him back into the woods, knocks him down. He's dead. And then she grabs his Luger from his holster. Don't they teach you always to reach for your gun first? Was that true, Bob? They teach you
Uh,
that
well,
if someone came behind you
yeah,
to strangle you with a
yeah.
wire, what would you do?
Well, no, they didn't teach that. I imagine that would be effective, but they do teach you hand to hand combat. So particularly in the Marines, there's a whole belt system where they teach you how to respond to attacks like this. So
And what
yeah.
would you do?
So I mean, there's the stamping on the feet, there's the elbow and the groin, there's the hands, the karate chop
Mm-hmm.
to the nuts. So there's the headbutt. There's a number of techniques to deal with that. If someone comes up from behind,
Mm-hmm.
generally, you don't see a lot of garroting these days. I suppose it could happen if you ran into a resistance agent.
Mm-hmm.
And normally people would just come up and stab you uh, from
Ooh,
behind. Yeah. So
yikes.
you really don't have that much, they don't like get you in a like half Nelson or a full Nelson or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. They
So
just come up behind you and like
yeah,
stab
just
you in the
stab you.
back or
Yeah.
slice your throat, or what do they do?
Yeah, I mean, that's mostly movie where they like reach around, and slice your throat. It's generally they'll just like put their hand over your mouth and stab you in the back.
Yikes.
So
Okay.
yeah, yeah, that seems to be the most effective and quickest acting solution to the problem.
Hmm. That reminds me of that soldier flicking those matches. Earlier today I was I was on Amazon and I was trying to find a lighter for our grill.
Mm.
Couldn't find a lighter, but I did find 6,000 matches.
6,000 matches.
Well, it's Amazon, right? Like,
Oh, right.
if you
Yeah,
like this,
that's a good point.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. All right, moving on. Uh, so she's running towards the little clubhouse here and leading the way. Everybody else is running behind her, and she throws looks like some smoke grenades in there. And next thing you know, there's a couple of soldiers who are like, "What is this?" And they get shot. Um, but some of them are shooting back, and so Cap again is holding up a shield over Mark, very reminiscent of what it was like before when he knocked him out. And but this time Anna is behind them, returning fire. Shoot him already. Get your big American head out of my way, and I will. And so they start climbing up onto the roof with that case from Japan. Carefully. I'm always careful. Now hurry. And they get Anna and Mark into a plane, into the cockpit. That's everything. Strap him in and we can get off that wing. It's not everything. You still need take it up with your girlfriend there. You have the plans? Yes, they will be delivered by morning, God willing. Well, we'll get you out of here safely. Now go. Keep your lights off and stick to the math. What does that mean, stick to the math?
I think that means stick to the plan, but I don't
Okay.
know. I'm unfamiliar with that saying, but
Maybe it was stick to the map and the letterer just got it wrong.
could be, could be. I would think it's like to me it seems let's follow the like there's a complex
Logical.
solution, a logical progression through this
Hmm.
solution, and just follow the math.
Okay. And so the plane takes off, and Cap folds his arms and looks at Peggy, and he looks a little annoyed. The plans, the arrangement wasn't for the thermal ray itself. We can't do that. Can't or won't. Cap, at best, we were hoping for complete plans. We never even dared hope to get our hands on the item intact. For that, for so many things, I have you to thank. I like the sound of that. How long until they're out of range? Henri, another minute. They're the only thing in the sky if this contraption is functioning properly. I never thought I'd find a reason to be grateful to the Japanese. People can change, Serge. We are all changed. They're safely away. Let's get out of here. Did you clean the building? Whatever we can use is the truck. We just need the others. Where are they? Let's see just how good this thing is detecting heat, shall we? And then they're looking through, and we see a little heat going through the lens there. It's like some orange, different colors of orange that are kind of meld together. And then we cut to the next panel, and it's Cap and Agent 13 locking lips.
That looks like an open mouth kiss.
It really does.
Could
And
be a
she's got
French
her
kiss.
hands. Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
And she's got her hands wrapped behind his head, like pulling him as close as he possibly could be. And then they stop kissing, and he holds her close, and she's in his arms. We need to go. I know, but not yet. One more moment. Please. Every time we're together, I feel like it's the last time. I always feel like it's the first time. Sap. Fair enough. Just don't tell the other fellas. Do you even remember the first time we met? Absolutely. Tell me about it. Where should I start? You were working in a library. It was a cafe. That's right. And it was a beautiful sunny day. It was pouring rain, and you know it. That's right. I was killing time. You were killing something. A woman's work is never done. Okay, that never happened. And what is he referring to there?
I got to tell you, Rick, I was confused by this panel.
I was hoping you could tell me.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in this panel.
I think it's Peggy
Yeah,
over a railing looking across the street
yeah,
into another bedroom and
yeah,
seeing an embrace.
yeah,
And then Cap comes up behind her and holds her close.
yeah,
But I don't understand the description of what's being said doesn't match what's being visually said.
yeah. Right.
Because she says, okay, that never happened. Didn't you tell me she was your sister? That's not how it happened. No, it's not. And so it's in reference to Sharon,
Yeah,
right? And because early on, Sharon Carter was supposed to be Peggy's younger sister, and then
yeah.
during the retcon, it became her niece. So I think you're referencing that, but I don't know.
I don't know.
But
Yeah,
the other thing too here is when they say that's not how it happened, it's true because as you can see, Cap's there with his mask off.
right. Yeah,
And so they're going through things that never happened, but romantically, it's nice to think that this did.
yeah. And I think maybe in that image, she's seeing another couple and imagining what it would be like if he was there.
Right.
Yeah,
That's true. I like that too. So we cut back to the scene where they're holding each other. There are so many things I haven't told you, so many things I want to tell you. There's time. There will come a time. I promise. Then we cut back to the beginning of the story, except it's 1945, not 1943. Same scenario, same street, same old woman walking in the middle of the street. And then we hear Peggy's voice. That time never did come. We had another year of struggle and subterfuge, another year of sneaking around, hiding our faces. More of the worst and the best that we could do, sometimes together, more often apart. And then it was over, and I never saw him again. Not that I know of. And what's interesting is there is it looks like an American soldier
hmm,
dressed in an American garb coming out of a door, and he's just looking down at his watch. She's not paying much attention to him, and they cross paths.
Yeah.
And one is led to believe that maybe that was Steve Rogers, and the two finally saw each other. She's wearing dark hair and a wig, and she's supposed to look old, and then she's never seen him without his mask. And so they never did see each other without without face to face, even though she said in the beginning that if we did, we'd know each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's sort of the bittersweet ending of this, right?
yeah,
Yeah. It's a
the end.
tearjerker.
All right, Bob, so what was your overall impression of this story?
Well, I love this story, Rick, for lots of reasons. It's a World War II story. It's one of the few stories that we get to see Cap's interaction with Peggy. As you pointed out earlier, it's early on in Cap's tenure. We see this like it's when he punched Mark to make it seem like he was taking him down. He might have like not pulled his punch as much as he would have had he been more experienced and used to his strength. So there's just a lot of things I like about this story, and it's got as we discussed, a bittersweet ending. So I don't know. There's a lot to love about this story, I think.
Yeah, I agree, and I appreciate you picking this out. I don't know if I'd ever read it otherwise. Um, I thought the art was actually pretty good, um, and I enjoyed the story as well. It is always fun seeing a younger Captain America, just a less experienced, and he came across, in my mind, a little cocky, and it's kind of like he's only been in this body for a short period of time, and he's the ladies never looked at him before, and
Yeah.
so now he's kind of like doing, I think, what most guys probably
Yeah,
would
he's a
in
young
that.
man. Yeah.
Yeah, all right, and so it was interesting to see Cap from that perspective, but I think I enjoyed a story told from Peggy's point of view. So that
Yeah.
was cool
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
All right, Bob, you go first. What is your favorite panel?
Ooh. Well, I love that panel of the IR image of Peggy and Cap smooching that you so aptly described as two sort of orangish clouds wrapped around
Mm.
each other as they were spying on them after that final mission and testing out the IR device. And I thought that was a clever use of that imagery. You can't quite make out what's going on there, but you kind of can make out two people embracing. And just from the sheer creativity, I love that panel.
Keyword making out.
Making out.
Yes,
Yeah.
because you said you can make out the
Oh,
with Steve and
yeah. Yeah.
all right, never mind.
Yeah. Good job. So, how about you? What's your favorite panel?
I'm gonna go with the um the page that had Peggy undressing. Not for the reason that anyone thinks, because by the way, she's fully clothed. There's no nudity here.
Right.
But I liked the way the artist had done this, Ramon, because, and I didn't describe this at the time when we were going through this because I wanted the story to advance, but it's a full page. Let's just say it's a full page splash that has two panels at the top left corner and one big panel at the bottom right corner, and then the rest of the story kind of flows, and so we're seeing Peggy walking down the stairs. So in this one panel, we see the front of her walking down and we see the back of her walking down as she gets further down the stairs. And she's just so happy. And so I like the joy on her. I like the fact that even though dad and me's not happy, she's just tossing off her clothes and just, but I like the perspective that Ramon had taken here, from the top of the stairs to the down of the stairs, that you can see that all in the same panel. So that's my favorite panel.
Yeah, and I like the cat. You
There
were
was a
worried
cat.
about, yeah, you were worried about like nobody's picking up the clothes. Somebody's got to fold those clothes and put them away. And I was like, who's feeding that cat?
Hmm.
Yeah. Good. I like that. How about that's good. I agree 100%. It was a great perspective, but also the joy of her was coming out. One, because I think she just wrapped up whatever mission she was working on, but two,
Hmm.
she knew
I
what
think she
was
was
coming.
coming back from seeing Steve.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think because she met with Steve
Yeah.
and he asked, how did everything go? And then she was reporting back that, well, he's on board. We're going to do this. And she said, there wasn't time for everything
Hmm.
because there was time for something. That's the impression I'm
Yeah.
getting because
Yeah.
he's putting his clothes back on, right?
Right.
He's putting his
Yeah.
boots back on and he's
Yeah.
sitting on the bed. She's got a look of
Yeah.
big smile on her face.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Good read on that situation.
Yeah.
All right. How about t-shirt worthy? You got anything you're gonna slap on a t-shirt?
Yeah, I'm gonna do page 7 where the cap, the explosion in the church.
Uh-huh.
And there's the big explosion, and then the German soldiers come in, and then Cap punches Mark as he's doing two things here. He's punching with his right, and you see Mark going down, and then you see it in the shield deflecting, all the bullets that are coming at him. And he says, "You need to stay down." Now, if you don't know that he's overexerting himself and hurting an ally, if you
Yeah.
didn't know that and you just saw this on a shirt, it's a pretty cool image.
Yeah, that is a cool image. Yeah. Nice.
Yep. How
Well,
about you?
I'm going to go with a unorthodox selection because Cap looks a little goofy in it. I will admit this. So I believe it's page 13. It's the bottom right. It's after she has just told Cap that he needs to go in and apologize to Mark for breaking his jaw and his eye socket, and it's when Cap realizes that Anna is standing in the hallway, and Peggy turns around like trying to figure out what the hell has caught his attention, and he's just doing kind of a little hello wave. I
Yeah, I
think
like that.
that's a great image
It really is.
because I
Because
feel
she's
like
looking over her shoulder, kind of like in a
yeah, we've all
angry
been caught
way.
there at some point in our life. So I like that. And he has that little sort of shit-eating grin, pardon my French, on his face.
That wasn't French, Bob.
It's
Come on.
not. I thought it was.
No,
Oh.
no, no.
Hmm.
It'd be the grin de poo poo.
Kenji Boo Boo, yeah.
Yeah, right.
So
All right. What's going in your time capsule?
well, it's that same page in the preceding one, Rick. My favorite movie of all time is An Affair to Remember. Came out in 1957. Cary Grant, Deborah Kerr, who I think is the sexiest woman who ever lived. But the 1940s.
Casey, sometime we'll listen to this.
She knows this.
Okay.
You're familiar with, remember Isabella Rossellini and Friends? And like
Yeah,
he
yeah.
had like one alibi, right? Ross had that was his alibi. Like, if you ever had a chance to
Oh,
hook up with Isabella
yes, yes,
Rossellini,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So we
Many,
discussed
many a couple have had that conversation after that episode.
exactly
Yeah.
right.
Who's your free cheat?
Yeah. So
Here's my
unfortunately,
list.
Deborah Kerr, passed many years ago, but the dialogue in these two pages is very similar to a lot of leading man, leading woman dialogue in the 40s and 50s. Very playful, sort of, almost like they're equals, and they're just sort of playing off each other, finishing each other's sentences, sort of sparring verbally. We don't see a lot of that these days in cinema. But back in the 40s, and in particular in An Affair to Remember with Cary Grant and Deborah Kerr, you have that dialogue going back and forth. And these two pages and the dialogue as written reminds me of that old time cinema. And so I'm putting these two pages in the time capsule as representative. She did a good job of capturing, I think, that the feeling of those films.
You're talking about the Kathryn Immonen?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think she really, the dialogue, that sort of playfulness between the two of them
Hmm.
is cool. Yeah, love it.
Very nice.
And yourself?
Ooh, all right. I'm going back a few pages to page 8, and I'm going to go with the first panel where he says, "I play this little game at home. I call it bowling for thalers,"
Mm,
and I say thalers because it rhymes a little bit with bowlers,
dollars.
but
Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, um, nice little reference to bowling for dollars. Thought that was fun, interesting, and maybe they have Captain America to thank for it.
Maybe. Yeah. I think the writer did a great job. She wove some real stuff in here that made us look up stuff.
Hmm.
Learn some stuff along the way, and I love that. I love having to look up this stuff because I find that fun, and that's just like a little extra bonus that you
I
get
like it
in
when
it.
you come prepared, Bob. It brings such another element to the show. It really
Yeah.
is. Listeners, if you would like to see more of Bob prepared, make sure you send in comments.
I feel like I got a little extra for my $3.99. When I get
Uh,
a little history assignment.
Excellent. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I would love to tell the listeners come back next episode for blank, but we haven't figured out what blank is yet. Bob and I were both on vacation last week. We've been really busy. I've been super busy with the community theater and getting that up and running. So we'll have something next week for you guys. It'll be a Captain America comic book. We'll do a panel by panel review, and it'll be fun.
Yeah. I always knew you were a thespian.
Don't tell my wife. All right, he's Bob Lucius. I'm Rick Verbanis, and thank you for listening. Please rate, review, and subscribe no matter where you're listening. If you're on YouTube right now, give us a thumbs up. Please leave a comment. We respond to the comments, and we would also be happy to talk about them here on the show. So do that wherever you're listening, and we really do appreciate it. And as always, thanks for listening to the another episode of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast.